Hey guys, it's Rachel. It is Thankful Thursday, and I'm here this week. I know there's a few more of us making a video this week, which is great. Welcome Charles again, because I know Felicia's done a video and hopefully Kel's going to get one up, and of course Ariel and myself are making a video this week. This week we're going to be looking at the topic of change. Basically looking at the things we can change and looking at the things we can't change, and in looking at the things we can't change, accepting that, and the process of accepting that is something I'd like to touch on, and being able to move on, which of course sounds a lot easier than it actually is. It's absolutely boiling out here today. I cannot believe that we are having the sun we are having in the UK at the moment, and I think it's warmer down south actually, so it's beautiful out here. Change is scary for a lot of us. Change is scary for even a normal person. Adapting to different circumstances can be very difficult. Certainly those of us with eating disorders, change is an incredibly frightening prospect. What happens with an eating disorder is often we get stuck in routines. Yeah, I'll call them routines. They tend to be quite rigid. They tend to not be particularly flexible. We tend to do things in a pattern, in a habit. We form a habit. It becomes very difficult then to break those things, and in that sense a lot of eating disorder behaviours and related behaviours are incredibly addictive in that regard. And when we're looking at change, going into recovery, the prospect of what is predominantly unknown ground is terrifying. And I know I'm not alone, and I met a lot of people that actually that process or that thought of change can make a person actually resort to their behaviours even more, because to deal with the difficult feelings surrounding change actually is pretty disabling, and it can be seen that we retreat back into those behaviours as a means of managing the idea of change. Changing the things we can change, the one thing or the things we can change are actually to do with our illness. We don't choose whether we become sick, but we certainly can change whether we stay sick, and that doesn't mean that we automatically go from sick to well overnight. There is going to be the issue of the environment that you're in. A lot has been written about agency and structure and how much the kind of agency we have over what we do, and that's the link here with what we can change and what we can't change. And no one can predict the future for us, unfortunately, and all we can do is try to build and arm ourselves in the best way we know how to deal with what is thrown at us in this life. And there are going to be circumstances whereby we haven't had any control over that, and with regards to change, we can start to put things in place that are going to help us with regards to dealing with what life does throw at us. Some of those things can be environmental, and it might seem like an easy get-out clause, but quite often shifting our environment can have a huge impact on us. An example might be, being in contact with somebody who has a tendency to make you feel incredibly negative about yourself, who tends to put you down, who, when they've made a phone call to you, hasn't asked how you are, hasn't showed any interest in you, and has actually made the phone call based on themselves. It can be a relationship that, although might not be fully abusive, may make you feel more submissive. It could be that you are living a lifestyle and interacting with people who, although you're choosing to use behaviours such as drinking too much or what have you, is actually an environment that is incredibly damaging to you because of your issues. It might sound very fairy tale, but I know that there's a lot of people who tend to escape to the country quite literally to give themselves that space, to give themselves that time out. And that doesn't mean that your problems go away. What it does mean is you're just shifting your environment, you're giving yourself some space, and it doesn't mean that that has to be forever. And sometimes when people go into hospital, that's what that gives them. I know when I was first hospitalised, been incredibly depressed in the same room, not leaving the house, just that shift in environment did something to me. And it didn't mean I didn't have all the problems that I had, but it meant that change meant it meant challenging every behaviour I had. I had all these weird rituals, and by just shifting my environment, and that's something that's quite important within eating disorder recovery, and I know it's very challenging for a lot of people, but going to stay with a friend for a couple of days, as difficult as that might seem, it's actually very important because it means you breaking away from your rigid routine. Or it could mean that if you're dealing with, for example, rigid behaviours where you have to get up at a certain time, perform a certain amount of tasks, eat in a certain way, or let's say that you are binging and purging an awful lot, sometimes just taking yourself out of that environment. I'm not just simply trying to imply that if you change your environment that everything's going to go away. What I'm trying to do is give you an example of things that you can change that can help facilitate your recovery and facilitate change for you. There can be a number of different things that people have to accept, forgive, move on from, and often that is quite a lengthy process. Now, when we're in a situation whereby we cannot change something, like I've said to you, I have scars on my arms, okay, let's use that as an example. I can't change that, okay, I could have plastic surgery and I could perhaps have some of them reduced or what have you. I can't change some of what have happened with losing friends. I can't change the fact that one of my good friends committed suicide, but what I can change is the fact that I process that. I can change the fact that I use something such as writing. Other people use it. There's a vast array of coping mechanisms, creative therapies, writing, drawing, obviously talking, sharing, even if you don't share what you're writing or what you're drawing with another person. By expressing that, there's something I do a lot now I'm recovered, is cry a lot. Have a good old cry and I feel a lot better. And in the process of doing my writing, in the process of putting my energies into eating disorder awareness and advocacy and what have you, I'm changing things for myself, and I'm using what could potentially be situations that could keep me down, knock me down, keep me depressed, keep me feeling sorry for myself, and I'm using that energy in a different way. And through the process of processing this and expressing it, you're giving yourself permission to have a period of time, like the grieving period, where you do have that time, and then you actually try to move on from that. And if people have hurt you in the past, and it sounds all very kind of AA, but forgiving people, saying this is what happened to me, this is who did this to me, I can choose to let this eat me up, or I can choose to let this help me grow. And what I've learned over the years, and it has taken an awful lot of therapy, is to use what has happened to me in a positive way. And I'm hopeful now that the experiences that I've had, although I'm not glad I had them in some regards, I am, because it's enabled me to go into therapy, it's enabled me to meet people, and it's enabled me to be the person I am today. So they're the situations that you can change, and you can do something positive for yourself. There are going to be circumstances in your life that you cannot change, and accepting those things might be an incredibly painful process. If you allow yourself to accept them and allow yourself to express and process it, it is going to be something that you can move on from, and have faith in that.